Jane Goodall was born on April 3, 1934, in London, England. London is one of the world's greatest cities. Jane, however, was far happier in the country. She liked being outdoors, exploring nature. Her family moved outside the city to a house with a yard. What interested her most were animals, all kinds of animals. Learning about them in books was interesting, but facts from books were not enough for Jane. Jane wanted to find out about animals by watching them herself. One time, she dug up some earthworms. She came home and put them under her pillow. Jane wanted to go to sleep with them. Her mother explained that the worms needed to be in their own homes. Little Jane was disappointed, but returned the worms to the garden. When she was about 5, Jane was curious to see how chickens laid eggs. In the backyard at her grandmother's house was a chicken coop. Here was Jane's chance to watch an egg get laid. She had Jubilee with her. She crept into the empty chicken coop. Then she waited for a hen to arrive. Jane stayed so still that the hen didn't notice her. Hour after hour went by. Jane kept waiting and watching. Finally, after 5 hours, Jane saw what she had hoped for. Out popped an egg from underneath the chicken. Jane was excited. Her family, however, was scared. Her mother had called the police to report that Jane was missing. But when Jane returned to the house, she did not get a scolding. Her mother understood that Jane was not being naughty. She needed to learn about the natural world in her own special way. Jane's mother was called Van. She wrote novels. Jane's father, Mortimer, was an engineer who later became a race car driver. On Jane's 4th birthday, her sister Judy was born. Imagine sharing the same birthday as your sister or brother. The Goodall girls were young when World War II broke out in 1939. Adolf Hitler was the Nazi leader of Germany and Austria. He was trying to seize control of all of Europe, including England. Right before the war, Jane's family was living in France. Her father was racing cars there. However, once the war started, the family returned to England. Mortimer joined the British Army in the fight against the Nazis. Van and her 2 young daughters moved in with Van's mother, who lived in the seaside town of Bournemouth. A little more than 100 miles from London, Bournemouth was safer than living in London, which the Germans started bombing in September of 1940. The Blitzkrieg. In German, Blitzkrieg means lightning war. The term is used for surprise attacks from the air. On September 7, 1940, German planes flew over London and dropped bombs on the city. The attacks lasted for more than 8 months. It was a frightening time. Often the raids happened at night. Often there was little or no warning before the bombing started. People would run and hide underground in subway stations. When the bombing stopped, they'd return to the streets and see rubble where buildings had stood only minutes before. About 30,000 people died because of the bombings. Another 50,000 were injured. Even so, the British never surrendered to the Germans. The war ended in Europe in the spring of 1945 with Germany's defeat. The Goodalls' first home in London remained standing. However, more than 1 million buildings had been destroyed. It took decades to rebuild London.